U.S. President Donald Trump declared a public safety emergency in Washington, D.C. and says he will deploy National Guard.
EU foreign ministers have called for transatlantic unity to support Ukraine after holding an emergency meeting just days before Trump and Putin are set to meet in Alaska.
A wave of Israeli strikes hit several areas across Gaza as Israel prepares to expand its ground offensive into Gaza City. U.S. President Donald Trump said on Monday he's placing the Washington, D.C. Police Department under federal control, declaring a public safety emergency in the nation's capital. He said the move is aimed at combating homelessness and crime and even suggested deploying the National Guard to patrol the streets.
I've never seen a crowd like we will have full, seamless, integrated cooperation at all levels of law enforcement, and we'll deploy officers across the district with an overwhelming presence. You'll have more police, and you'll be so happy because you'll be safe. When you walk down the street, you're going to see police or you're going to see FBI agents. We're going to have a lot of agents on the streets. You're going to have a lot of essentially military, and we will bring in the military if it's needed, by the way. We're going to have National Guard. But Pete Hegseth will tell you about it. We will bring in the military if needed.
About 500 federal law enforcement officers are being deployed throughout the U.S. Capitol, including over 100 FBI agents. The Washington, D.C. mayor and top prosecutor have both denounced the move as unlawful, saying crime is not at emergency levels, but rather is at its lowest in decades and continues to sink.
EU foreign ministers called for transatlantic unity on Monday to support Ukraine and ramp up pressure on Russia following an emergency meeting ahead of a Trump-Putin summit later this week. The EU's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, said following the meeting that the ministers expressed support for U.S. President Donald Trump's peace efforts. She also noted that the bloc is continuing to work on another sanctions package against Moscow and further military support to Kyiv. The meeting was hastily arranged and took place virtually and also featured Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha. It comes just 2 days after Trump announced he would meet with Russia's President Vladimir Putin in Alaska on Friday. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is not expected to join them, though Trump has expressed his desire to chair a trilateral meeting involving the Ukrainian leader. The upcoming summit has reignited fears in Europe that a peace deal could happen without their involvement. Trump will join European leaders in a virtual meeting on Wednesday for talks thought to be focused on the summit with Putin. Brussels stressed that a deal concerning Ukraine cannot happen without Ukrainian involvement and reiterated their unwavering support for Kyiv.
The planned meeting in Alaska between US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin sees Europe sidelined once again from a meeting crucial to its own security, according to EU law professor Alberto Alemanno. Europe accepts this subjugation, according to Alemanno, in order to secure security guarantees from Trump.
So this is extremely tricky to see and also frustrating, I guess, for millions of Europeans who would like to see their European leaders to speak with a louder voice instead of accepting yet again more impositions, more intimidations, more subjugation to this US administration in a moment in which this negotiation could clearly fundamentally reshape the European security without meaningful European impact.
Europe is paying the price for its inability to defend itself and to support Ukraine, according to Jakob Kierkegaard, an expert with think tank Bruegel. He added that any deal harming Europe's security interest would damage NATO.
I believe that at the end of the day, NATO is meaningless. If the United States, as the principal current security provider inside NATO, signs a deal that very directly is militarily advantageous to NATO's direct physical military threat in Russia, then NATO is dead, finished. It's not even, it's buried, it's over. And this is our problem. that we are not capable, certainly without a fighting Ukraine, but we are not able to, at this moment, militarily deter Russia on our own.
The US-Russia summit takes place on Friday in Alaska, United States.
All eyes will be on Alaska this week when President Donald Trump and Russian leader Vladimir Putin meet in the largest U.S. state to see if a deal can be struck to produce peace in Ukraine. Although the exact location of their meeting in Alaska has not been released yet, many residents have expressed hopes that the U.S. West Coast state can play a historic role.
I'd hope to have them come to a better resolution, figure things out, be able to talk to each other in a reasonable manner, because obviously it affects me and it affects everybody in the United States, but we'll see.
Well, it'd be neat for both of these leaders to be communicating together to somehow work out this not having a war, because no one doesn't want to have a war.
Friday's meeting only involves Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, meaning Ukraine is not included, something that may be a historic moment or a breaking point. The U.S. purchased Alaska from Russia in 1867, giving historical significance to the upcoming summit.
Ukraine's armed forces carried out a series of drone strikes across Russia on Monday. They attacked defense industry-operated facilities, some located thousands of kilometers from the Ukrainian border. A strike on an aerospace plant in the Nizhny Novgorod region killed one person and injured two others, according to the local governor. 2 more people were killed in the region of Tula. Another strike hit an oil refinery in the Komi Republic, almost 2,000 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. Meanwhile, at least 20 people were injured in a Russian attack on the Ukrainian city of Zaporizhzhia on Sunday, according to emergency services. 2 strikes destroyed 2 civilian buildings, vehicles, and nearby houses, as well as a medical clinic. No casualties were reported at the clinic, but around 200 windows, offices, wards, and some medical equipment were damaged. A wave of Israeli strikes hit several areas across Gaza as Israel prepares to expand its ground offensive into Gaza City. Some Gaza City residents said it was the worst bombardment they had experienced in weeks. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society said they had received 9 bodies at Gaza City's Al-Shifa hospital and 7 more at Al-Quds hospital, as well as dozens of injured people. Further south in Khan Yunis, 7 Palestinians were killed in another overnight Israeli strike, according to the Nasser hospital where the bodies were brought. They were all members of the same family, including a grandfather, his 4 children, a grandchild, and another relative. The strikes come after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defended his government's plans to control Gaza City. The move has drawn increasing international condemnation from some of Israel's closest allies. On Monday, French President Emmanuel Macron called the move a disaster of unprecedented gravity waiting to happen.
Spain continues to battle wildfires as record-breaking temperatures hit southern Europe. The northern regions of Castilla y León and Navarra are among the worst-hit areas. Dry conditions and strong winds have made braving the fires more challenging. Thousands have been evacuated from the impacted regions as efforts to extinguish the flames continue.
July 2025 was the 3rd hottest month on record globally, the latest climate bulletin from the EU's climate service Copernicus showed. In Europe, the average temperature for July 2025 is just over 21 degrees Celsius, 1.30 degrees above the 1991 to 2020 average for July, making it the 4th warmest July on record. Meanwhile, July 2025 was 1.25 degrees above the pre-industrial level globally. It was only the 4th month in the last 25 months with a global temperature less than 1.5 degrees above this level. Does this mean the landmark Paris Agreement, which is ratified by all EU member states and aims to limit the long-term average temperature increase to 1.5 degrees above the pre-industrial level, has failed? The short answer is no. For this, levels have to be breached for at least 2 decades.
The Paris Agreement refers to a long-term average temperature of 1.5 that shouldn't be exceeded in order to avoid the most catastrophic and irreversible consequences of climate change. What we have seen over the past couple of years is temporary breaches of this limit. But once we have reached this 20-year average global temperature above 1.5, that's when we can consider that we have exceeded the limit of the Paris Agreement.
Recent predictions show that the breaching of this temperature might occur as soon as 2030. This long-term warming trend is directly related to the accumulation of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. In other words, climate change hasn't stopped. Across Europe, the effects of this are being witnessed, from the extreme heat to the catastrophic floods affecting several countries this summer. Experts are clear. This warming trend won't stop if greenhouse gases continue to be emitted.
And even if at some point in the next few years we might reach this 1.5 degree limit set by the Paris Agreement, we must continue doing everything we can to cut greenhouse gas emission. As we often say, every fraction of a degree matters.
If greenhouse gases are not stabilized or decreased, experts have warned that the world should prepare for new temperature records as well as a worsening of their impact.